Okay, welcome. This is the Fall 2022 New Features webinar for Personal Finance Lab. In general, this is more for teachers who've used Personal Finance Lab before and are kind of familiar with it, because I'm not really going to go over the core of Personal Finance Lab. I'm really just going to focus on the new stuff that we're launching over the next month or so, or is already live on the site for you. So, my name is Kevin Smith. I'm the Director of Product Development. I see some people are still saying that they only see a screenshot in place. Now there should be a yellow screen. Before it was a white screen with the new features. Yes, no. Let me try to end the video and restart it, just to see if that can help us. Okay, Tony can see the yellow screen. Jamie, are you able to see the yellow screen? Okay, so I think that we're in the right place because I have the yellow screen up right now. I have a couple of slides just to introduce some of the stuff, and then I'm going to jump over to the actual website to go through them in a little bit more detail. So yeah, my name is Kevin Smith. I'm basically responsible for the new features that are released on Personal Finance Lab every semester. So if there's something broken, it's also my fault. So don't feel you shouldn't be getting my emails if you're already on our emailing list. So don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions or comments for me. Let me jump right into the new stuff that's most important for most teachers, which is our single sign-on enhancements. So starting with Clever, we are adding single sign-on to the Personal Finance Lab platform. This is currently in the final stages of approval with the Clever team. If you go to Personal Finance Lab today, you will already notice that there is the option on our login page to log in with Clever. With Clever single sign-on, there's two ways to use it. The first way is if you already have an account. So, for example, your teacher account that may already exist, you can add Clever to your account by going to your Edit Profile page, which is under your dashboard. So if I go into my logged in version here, I go to Dashboard and I have Edit Profile, and there's an option to link your current account with Clever. Doing so will allow you to sign in with Clever to begin with. Going forward, I should say. If you add Personal Finance Lab as an app to your classroom in Clever, your students will also be able to sign in with Clever. You'll use the regular registration link that you've been using before, whereas your students were creating a username and password in the past. They can still create a username and password, but they'll just also be able to log in with Clever instead of having to use that password in the future. If you use our system to generate accounts for your students, they can also use Clever. It's the same thing. After they log in for the first time with that username and password that we generate, they can go to their profile page and click link with Clever, and then they can sign in with Clever from that point forward. So in all cases, everybody can use it. We're just in the last phases right now. Everything's finished on our side. We're just waiting for Clever to give the final okay before it goes live and is available in the Clever library. Next up, for our new stuff, we have our LMS Single SignOn. So beyond Clever, we also are adding the method to actually have single sign-on with most of the most popular LMSs that are on the market today. This uses what are called the LTI Single Sign-On. This is not quite as simple as linking accounts with Clever. There's actually a little bit of configuration that your IT department's going to need to do to add Personal Finance Lab as an app to your LMS. Right now, we just pushed this live about a week ago, so we're ready for the first schools to actually turn this on. If you are interested, you can reach out to me after this call. You can send me an email, or you can talk to your account managers. They're all ready to work with our privacy team to get this set up. So everything's ready on our end. We're just waiting for the first schools to actually use it. So Blackboard, Canvas, Moodle, Brightspace from D2L, Sakai, all of those, and Schoology as well, all apply to the LMS single sign-on that we've developed. If your school uses Google Classroom, We still have our Google single sign-on as well, so your students' Google accounts, they can continue to log in with Google as well. This is a little bit, the teacher account, if you already have a teacher account, you can link it to your account using the LMS systems, but students have to come in through the LMS in order for it to link for single sign-on. If your students sign up with a regular registration links, it will not be able to link to their LMS account. They have to go through the LMS system after we set up the integration. So again, if this is something that your school is interested in, I know it's very important for especially some of the bigger school districts, let us know and we'll get you set up just so you can have that attached to your classes for this fall. Next up, we have our class Quick Create. This is another one that is basically designed to help teachers get their classes up and running faster. One of the biggest strengths of Personal Finance Lab is that it's super customizable. Across our stock game and budget game, there's about 150 different settings that you can configure for your class to make it exactly the way you want it. But sometimes you just want to get your class set up and ready to go. And maybe you want to tweak some settings later. So to do that, we have our new class creation. I can pull it up here. This is going live in the next 10 business days. It's actually ready in our staging server. We're just doing some final testing before we put it live. And basically, what you can do is what's called the new Express setup. You can give your class your name, a description, and then you really just choose the dates that you want your class to run. By default, it's today, and in the default end date is 3 months from now, but you can change these to whatever your site license figures allow. Whether or not you want to include the stock game or budget game, which may be different depending on your site license, what your school is actually using Personal Finance Lab for. And if you click next from here, it'll just create your class right away. There's nothing else you need to do. If you do still want to go through and tweak the settings for each class, you can. Right here, you just switch to custom, and then you're going to get all of the same rules before. Whether or not you want to use the badges and certificates. If I move on to the next step, the budget game, and again with the budget game, you can continue with the recommended settings, or you can change everything. The stock game as well. Do you want to really dig into the details, or you just want to use what we recommend? It's all up to you. So top to bottom, we're just trying to make it a little bit easier for, honestly, about most teachers will only change a couple of settings for their class, maybe like the initial cash balance or the weekly deposits and things like that. So we're just trying to make it a little bit more of a streamlined process for first-time teachers. Of course, each account manager for each school is more than happy to walk through setting up the first classes with the teachers as well, just to make sure everything's set exactly the way you like it. And after your class is set up, whether you're using the express settings or the custom settings or however you want to do it, you have the option to edit all of your rules in the future on the Edit Budget Game or Edit Portfolio Simulation pages we have here. If you're coming back from Personal Finance Lab from a previous year or semester, you also do have the option to copy a previous class. This will basically show you what the rules were on that last class, particularly the stock games rules. And if you click create, it'll copy all that stuff for you. You don't have to pick everything again. It'll use exactly what you had last time. So in both cases, really, this one is all about making it a little bit less stressful for teachers to get their classes set up every semester. Before I continue on, do you have any questions? Don't see anything so far. So next up, this is a feature we actually launched in the spring semester, but we didn't really have it ready before the semester started, so just so all the teachers are aware of it, our new messaging center. So our new messaging center is a new way that teachers can reach their students, and our support team can reach the students as well. The messaging center was built basically because we have so many schools where if a student were to submit a support ticket, or if there was something that impacted the student's account, we might not have the ability to actually reach that student. We don't keep email addresses for most students other than for password resets. And so sometimes it's easier if the student can go straight to our support team and back. So for example, right at the top of the page here, we have our messaging center. I can go to messaging settings 3. You see it's flashing 1 because I have an unread message here. So there's a few different types of messages that can come in. The first is a basic one. This is the type of support. That means the support team has done something to my account. If a student goes to our support page under the About and they'll go to Contact Us, or if they use our live chat to send a message for the support team, and for any reason the support team is not able to solve their issue right then and there, the support team will get back to them later by leaving a message through the support system, the messaging system. There's also another type, the session updates. The teachers can actually send the session updates to their students. So most teachers already have some kind of LMS system that they use for messaging, but maybe they just want a second place they can post messages for their students. Maybe it's something specific about the stock game or budget game you want to give them a reminder about. You as the teacher can do that from the administration page under Post a Message. In the current system, this is also where you can actually use our announcements box to have a message that kind of stays on the right side of every page for teachers. But now we have also an option to send a message to all the users in your session. The third type of message that a student can get, which is not actually on here because I don't have any right now, is if they have something happen to their stock portfolio. For example, if they were to get a split or a dividend applied to their account, they're going to get a message in here letting them know about it. We used to have on-site reminders about that, but they would disappear within a week, and not every student would log in every week, so we just wanted to make sure that they have a record and they can see all their missed messages the next time they log in. Once they viewed a message, they can remind me later, in which case it stays bolded and reminds them it's coming, or they can delete it and not look at it again. Or they can just close it and keep a record of the messages here for the future. The next new stuff we have has to do with our assignment system. So our assignment reports and class stats. So we actually, again, launched this actually in the middle of last spring, but it didn't apply for all classes because we didn't have all the data for the beginning of the semester. Now it's live, it's up and ready for all classes, and this is using our assignment system. So after you've built an assignment for your class, the new reporting we have one that's called the progress report and one that's just called view assignment. These two reports were here before, and all of the information that was on these reports is still there now, but there's more information as well available for you. So the progress report, for example, it basically used to tell you the progress of each student and what grades they've gotten in the quizzes they've taken. There's a couple new important fields. Oh, sorry, give me 1 second while the fire truck goes past my window. That should be a bit better. In addition to the progress they've taken, it'll also give you a timestamp for how long each student has taken to complete the stuff they've asked them to do. That way you can get a sense of how much some students might be falling behind, even though they're taking a lot of time, they're not making much progress, or some students who might have just blown through things and not paid very close attention, might have a lot of progress, but they spent very little time on it. We also have this details button. This details button will show you exactly what each student has done for each of the things you've asked them to do. So this first lesson here, stock market basics, I've finished it. This is my account. I took one attempt. I only spent 7 seconds. I was just testing something quickly, and I've got 100%. I can also click the view button for this task, which will pop up even more information, including what I actually answered for all of the questions that are involved in that exam. So you can have a full look into exactly what each student is doing. So going back, there's also another class view, which is the view assignment. The view assignment is going to show you, for all the stuff that you've assigned, how many of your students have finished it and what's the average amount of time they've taken towards this and what's the average grade they've gotten. So this one, there's only me in this class, so this one's all finished. It's taken 7 seconds, of course. But when I look at the details for this quiz, it'll show me the percentage of students that got these questions right and wrong. So a little bit more information to help teachers pinpoint where some students might be getting tripped up, what parts of the class as a whole might need a little bit more information to complete appropriately, and just in general, a little bit more information to help teachers really dive into what's going on in their classroom. Next up is another curriculum thing relating to our assignments. Our assignment system, as of the beginning of this summer, introduced a new system called Unit Introductions and Unit Assessments. This was added for a couple of reasons. The first reason is that It used to just be that when you go to create an assignment on Personal Finance Lab, it would just list all like 300 of the items that we had for our lessons. And it made it very difficult for teachers to really know what's really applicable for the assignment they're trying to set up for this week. If I'm trying to talk about insurance, just tell me what the insurance stuff is, for example. So with the new units introductions, basically you can see right here, this first unit, budgeting, saving, and spending. So all the topics that are below here are relating to those topics. It starts here with the introduction. It's a very short two-minute lesson, basically just introducing this concept to the students. And at the end, there's a unit assessment that covers all of the stuff that's covered in the unit before that. The unit assessment is another one that is something a lot of teachers were asking for. Our lessons as they are, if you've been familiar with them in the past, they have articles, videos, there's some interactive stuff depending on the lesson you're looking at. This one has an exercise where you're actually trying to fill out a check, and then it ends with a short pop quiz. The pop quizzes are great, but sometimes it's useful for the teachers to want to give their students an assessment covering all of the stuff that came up before that. So the unit assessments is one way to do that. So we've organized our unit introductions and unit assessments along the lines of the Jumpstart National Council of Economic Education's financial literacy standards. You are still, as the teacher, able to pick and choose which lessons you want from any section, any unit, any topic, and mix and match them to however you like to run it. We also, if you've used Personal Finance Lab's assignments before, also have the option to copy an older assignment here. So if you had your assignments last year, you had them the way you liked them, you can just go in here, go to last semester's assignments, and then copy the assignments that you already had. So easy. Next up, we have some enhancements for our stock game. In particular, we have options. So Personal Finance Lab's trading engine has always had options available. Options are really not for the average personal finance class. It's more for more advanced investing classes, usually part of CTE programs. And actually, this enhancement we have has come from our university side. And when we added it to our university platform, we added it to Personal Finance Lab as well. If your class does include options, we now have a new version to trade option spreads, which is an even more advanced method of trading equities and balancing out how you want to make your profit based on how the underlying stock is moving. The new option spreads can be accessed from the options trading page, and we have switched to spreads. The spreads that were on before were pretty simple, and now we cover about 22 different types of spreads. So if you're aware of what option spreads are, this should look pretty familiar. For students who would be looking at option spreads for the first times, we give descriptions. We're putting in images to show exactly how the profit works for every type of option spread they may be trying. This feature is still in our final stages of QA, which is why you're seeing things like insert image here, where an image showing this option spread should be, but it will be available towards the end of August for all classes. Speaking of some more advanced trading options, we have Forex. Forex trading, again, has always been part of Personal Finance Lab for the last several years. Forex, the biggest change we have now is that we actually use real-time prices that we're showing students and executing at. In previous years, we always executed using real-time prices, but we were showing students delayed prices. Again, this is not going to apply for a typical personal finance class. But there are some more advanced finance classes that are part of some CTE programs that actually do touch on currencies and Forex. Sometimes if you're talking about currencies in an international business class, this might be included as well. And again, this is another one that really came from our university version, but we brought it over to Personal Finance Lab as well, just to make sure that everything that they got, teachers on Personal Finance Lab would have access to as well. Next up is the stuff that actually has a lot more application to the everyday teacher in Personal Finance Lab. And this is probably the biggest enhancement we're making to the platform for our summer update. This one I also don't have too much to show you because it's still in active development, but I can show you some images and I can give you an idea of how this works. Currently in the budgeting game on Personal Finance Lab, students make all kinds of purchasing decisions. They'll buy stuff, they might save, they might hit a savings goal, they might not. They choose what kind of apartment they want to live in, but some of those don't really sink in very well. And one of the consistent items of feedback we got from students was just that they couldn't really see how this stuff applied. They'll make the purchasing decision and they'll forget about it 15 seconds later because it doesn't really carry over that weight if they can't see it, which is where the apartment comes from. Every student starting this September will have an apartment in the budgeting game. The apartment they have will be based on where they chose to live at the start of the game. And they'll have there's a nicer, luxurious apartment, kind of a mid-range apartment, and kind of a budget apartment. It's a little bit smaller, more cramped, a little bit less well-maintained. And then as they make purchasing decisions through the game, the things that they buy and the things they choose to do will pile up into this apartment. So for example, in this case, everything's going to start with a bed, of course, and a kitchen table. But they bought a new desk. They have a humidifier that they put in their office. They bought a new toaster. This person actually upgraded their television set. There's also bathroom, kitchen stuff. There's over 200 different items, and each of those items has several different types that the students are able to acquire and put inside their apartment. We also are changing the game where the students can make purchasing decisions that impact their apartment even outside of the randomized events in the game. So students don't need to wait to see if a random card is going to come up. If there's something they want to buy, they can buy it right away. And buying things, of course, impacts the quality of life metric in the game. This also gives another interesting element to the game when it comes to setting savings goals. Again, most of the purchasing decisions that are part of the game right now, the student kind of just makes a decision whether they want to buy it or not when a card pops up at random in the game. But with this one, we're actually going to have the option for students to be able to save up and purchase like a vacation package. In purchasing a vacation package, maybe they'll get some souvenirs that appears in their apartment, but having the vacation has a big impact on their quality of life and things like that. It's those kinds of bigger purchases that students have the ability to save up for, rather than just a kind of a one-off, do you want to do this, yes or no, and then it kind of comes up to whether or not you have money in your checking account or not. So we're hoping this brings us to another level of realism with how students actually make their purchasing decisions. And to make it a little bit more engaging, students can also see each other's apartments from the game. So from the rankings page of the Personal Finance Lab budgeting game, they can already see their fellow students' net worth, their credit score, their quality of life, their overall scores, and there'll also be a button where the students can visit the apartment of any other student in their session. So it's a little bit more engaging way to have the students interact with those parts of the game. And the last big one we have is for the budgeting game as well. The budgeting game, as of this fall, has a mobile version. So the mobile version is optimized for mobile devices. If you've tried to play the budgeting game from a phone in the past, the experience really wasn't very good, and sometimes it wouldn't load at all, just depending on the size of your phone. We've put quite a lot of effort into making it completely mobile optimized. Our stock game and our curriculum library already was mobile friendly. So now you can access anything there is on the Personal Finance Lab site for students from a mobile device. There are still some teacher reports and teacher functionalities you're going to need to use a laptop or a tablet or a desktop to use. For example, setting up your class or looking at some of your assignment reports. But for students, we're making it making sure that students can access this however they can access this. If they're using a tablet or an iPad, or if they're accessing this from a phone and when they're trying to do their homework, they don't really want to sit at their desk. All of those are now part of the platform itself. So that's all the new stuff I have. If you want to learn more, we have our website, of course, but I'm going to open up to questions in the comments. If anything's unclear, you want a little bit more information, I'd be happy to share. Oh, yep, Stock Game is totally mobile. Stock Game is actually mobile before we even launched Personal Finance Lab in some of our older versions. We do not have a mobile app, so you don't download it, but if you were to open up the Stock Game on your phone, it's completely mobile optimized. It actually looks quite a bit different than the desktop version because we kind of give a simplified way for students to interact with it. A little bit fewer lines of text, a little less extra information. That way the students can just really see the stuff they need to see right away. All right, well, we are at our 30 minutes, so I'm going to stay on for another minute or two if there's anybody else who has any questions, but otherwise, thank you for joining us. I hope I didn't take up too much of your time. This also was recorded, and so we'll be distributing the recording to all of the other teachers who requested that later. The lessons aligned to Florida. Florida actually has their standards are based on the national standards, the Jumpstart International Council standards, and they updated that recommendation last year when the National Council updated their standards. And yes, we do. Actually, if you go to PersonalFinanceLab.com/standards alignment Florida. We actually have a specific standards alignment page for Florida that we actually already developed. There we go. And I will post a link to this into the chat. Oh, they just updated our standards alignment team. Actually just updated this like 2 days ago. So this will be up to the current Florida state standards. I will double check with them just to be sure. Let me post the link in here just to confirm it. But yeah, our standards team really just did this like, I think they finished the Florida state standards alignment last Friday. We also aligned this over the last few weeks. We did a realignment and did some minor curriculum updates for Michigan, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Ohio, Utah, and we were looking at Nebraska, but Nebraska has not published their newest set of standards yet, and so we are using their old standards and we'll be doing their new ones as soon as they're available. Pennsylvania standards, we aligned to the Pennsylvania standards 3 years ago. I'm not sure if they've changed yet. If you use that same link above and go Pennsylvania, should bring me to the correct one. And it looks like I don't have the link for the Pennsylvania, but I'll get back to you for that one, Jamie. I know we've done it offhand because I remember we published actually a marketing campaign with Pennsylvania a couple of years ago with the standards in that, so I just need to find what the URL is of that page. Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining. And Jamie, I will get back to you with the Pennsylvania standards. We do align to them, and I know that for sure. I just need to get the actual link to show it. But otherwise, thanks for joining.